We know a second Trump administration will attack the LGBTQ community. They were very clear on that in their campaign messaging. We don't know exactly what that looks like. However, we do suspect attack on the trans community as well as an attack on equality. There is a way to take steps to preserve your relationship, preserve your family, and preserve your dignity. If you are at all concerned about how to do that, please give our office a call, ALH Law Group, 614-440-1395. Thank you, and please enjoy C-Bus Mob.
Welcome to C-Bus Mob. I have Ashley Blackstone, the owner of Blowdry Cafe in Upper Arlington and in Powell, here with me today. Ashley, introduce yourself.
As you said, Ashley Blackstone. I own a blowout salon and a makeup bar. I started in Upper Arlington almost 11 years ago, and our Powell location just turned 4 in October.
That is incredible.
Thank you. It's fun.
What led you to open up the Blowdry? Because it's not a hairstyle, like it's not a cut and color, right? It is, you can get your hair blown out and look good, and you can get your makeup done, but no one's pulling trimmers out.
Correct. Yes. So we started that with just a blowout styling and makeup and facial waxing. And then several years back, I decided that it would be a good idea to potentially add root touch-ups in, as far as like adding it to our service menu. And we're really just a salon of convenience. A lot of people don't want to do their own hair. They don't want to style it, especially for events, weddings, pictures, proms, homecomings. Those are our big events that we cater to. And so the root touch-ups have been very popular. No cuts, no color, so no highlighting. So we do some color, but we don't do any lifting, no blonding, anything like that.
So I want to say it's like the quick part of it, but like root touch-up is more of a, I need to get in and get out. I'm not going for
exactly
the longer.
And when it's hard to get into your full service stylist for that service sometimes. So we thought, hey, let's make it easier for the customer and we'll just add it to our service menu. So that's been really good.
Yeah.
But I started Blowdry because, well, I had a business that I knew eventually I would not want to do forever. And I did do it for 20 years. So it seemed like forever and I loved it. But I wanted something a little less physical, I guess, since I was personal training at the time. Anyway, my husband and I, we would talk about maybe small businesses that we wanted to open. We thought about maybe a little wine shop or a little cafe or maybe both. Then your wife comes home from a business trip. So really, Heidi is the reason I have Blowdry Cafe.
I will thank her for you. Yes.
Yes. And she's like, oh my God, you will not believe where I just went. They just style your hair. I'm like, what? That sounds amazing. And then she told me the price point, because in actuality, we were already doing this. Like when we went on vacation, you get your hair done.
Right.
We didn't really call it a blowout at the time. But I will tell you, when you're going to these high-end hotels, because those are the ones with salons and spas, you're paying $85, $90 and above for
sure
a blowout.
At least, yeah.
So I looked at my husband. I was like, that is exactly what I want to open. That's our small business. So I spoke with a marketing professional soon after. Actually, Heidi was telling me about the concept, which obviously I loved. And then I had just moved my studio at the time. So I didn't think it was great timing to open a brand new business when I'm still establishing my personal training studio.
Yeah.
Where I moved it. And so 4 years after that work trip for Heidi, and she came home and told me about it, is when I opened Blowdry. So obviously that was 2010, which is when blowout salons opened. 2009, 2010, there's 2 that opened, major blowout salons. They started on the West and East Coast, New York and LA.
Of course they did. Yeah.
So that's it. That is why and obviously cafe. So everything is coffee or cafe inspired as far as names in our salon and styles. because like I said, we really did consider maybe opening a cafe or a small wine shop or
So this was kind of your way to get both, right?
yes,
It's a Blowdry Cafe. Yeah, I
yes.
love it. So you said you had your personal training studio. It was called That Gym. I know because I have participated in both of your businesses. You trained me for a little bit, and then I've gotten blowouts.
I
So,
appreciate it.
and so is my wife. How did you find the shift from the personal training, which was all you for the most part? I think you had some other trainers, to Blowdry Cafe because you are not a stylist. So how did you find that like transition?
Yes, that's a great point. I am not a cosmetologist, and I'm just in constant awe of our stylists. Hairstylists, cosmetologists in the beauty industry are just amazing, and they literally do perform art. Like it's
Yeah.
art. They do perform magic sometimes. Obviously, I've learned a lot in the last 11 years. I've witnessed a lot, observed a lot, all of that. But I will say the transition was not easy because I went from a small business where it was just me, and I was the only one that I had to be concerned about as far as doing a good job.
Yeah.
So, or putting in the time and effort and everything that entails. But when you take on a whole business out there as far as employees, and I'll backtrack a little bit as far as marketing, because everyone knew what personal training was. Everyone knew
Right.
what working out was. No one knew what blowouts were
That's true.
and why they would go to a blowout salon.
And it's amazing because you want to feel great. That's why. But
If you're having a lazy day, you definitely don't want to add a bad hair day to it, then we're the place to go. But it was those two aspects of it were incredibly difficult. Now, I won't say, yeah, I mean, as with any business, sometimes I'm understaffed. Right now, I'm lucky. I'm almost overstaffed, and I love my staff. So that helps a lot. So that takes a little bit of stress out of it. But in the beginning, marketing the concept was probably the hardest thing.
yeah,
People just didn't know. So we had to try to be creative, get the word out there, do all the things. And really what it came down to, in my opinion, are some other similar blowout salons opening.
yeah. You didn't have to be the person to explain what it was. People had seen it elsewhere. And so you just got to capitalize
Yeah, and
on.
even the ones that opened in Columbus, actually, it was a gift because that is just natural marketing. And not to mention, there's enough hair for everyone. So,
That's so funny. I talk to people who want to open a business, but they're like, there's someone else in the market that does it. And it's like, and my thought is always like, yeah, that's great. It means there's a need for it versus like running away from it. And it sounds like for you, you might have been the first, but you were like, yes, thank you for opening up competition because you're helping explain what we do.
yes,
That drives demand.
it was huge. So, we weren't the first, we were actually the second. We opened 6 months apart.
Okay.
And since I had thought about it 4 years prior, I was a little bummed, but my husband Craig pointed out, he's like, no, this is great. This is going to help with the marketing of the concept and letting people know what we do and who we are. Yeah, I think that probably worked out for the other company and us. So
yeah,
that was a good thing. And it's so funny you say that because I always say, and I'm not going to, but
I will hold you to this when I hear this.
okay, if I ever opened a restaurant, I would want to open, like in Columbus, Ohio, I'd want to open close to a very busy Cameron Mitchell restaurant because I want their overflow.
Yeah. Oh, because Cameron Mitchell is always busy.
Yeah. And a lot of times you can't get in. So that's where I want to be personally. So I've never really been afraid of competition. I've really never been in a business where there's not enough clients or consumers to go around.
Yeah.
I think it is about getting your name out there. And as far as personal training, I was so lucky. I had a great following for pretty much my entire career, up to like for the first 5-6 years. It's always rough going. But you put in the time and the work and the effort, and it seems to always pay off.
Yeah, because I think in the time that I started dating my wife, I think you had moved your personal training studio, I think for the third time when you ended up in Upper Arlington, and she had followed you to all of them.
Yes, I
Yeah.
know. I'm so lucky. It was bizarre, but I started because I lived in
Yeah.
Dublin, Powell area. And then I thought it was only fair to open my first studio in that same general area and keeping costs low. And then the drive when we moved to Grandview and I was working in Lewis Center. And as a personal trainer, you're working a lot. Twice a day, driving that drive from Grandview to Lewis Center, 6 days a week at least, sometimes 7. It became a lot. So yeah, I moved a couple other times, but the last place my studio was just 2 doors down from Blowdry Cafe for Arlington because it was just necessary.
Yeah. Well, I'm assuming then it allowed you in between personal training, then you could work on the cafe.
Yeah, there was a lot of back and forth.
Yeah.
And the great thing is the landline connection reached over to my personal training studio. So if I or they were in a pinch, then I could take the phone.
Yeah. That speaks to a little bit of, I want to say, scrappiness, because I feel like when people are like, oh, I want to open this retail place, and so it has to be perfect. And they're like, but I don't have capital. You can be, I think, sometimes a little creative. Your landline goes to storefronts over when you have to, because you're like, yeah, I can't. What am I supposed to do? Or life happens, someone calls in sick. Do you think you learned some of that scrappiness as you were opening the cafe?
I think you learn a lot of scrappiness. But I feel like that in even the personal training business without having employees, it's just, I started at a gym and then opened my own studio. So there's some scrappiness that needs to be had with that as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I like to say this, and it really doesn't bother me either way, like how a business is started, but ours was definitely not a trust fund business by any means, means. Nothing saved, nothing. So, I wrote a small business plan, presented it to some friends, and wanted to know if they'd like to invest in this concept and small business. And it was stressful, but that's how we opened Blowdry, was just that.
I mean, that's amazing, though. It speaks to your network, right? You had developed great relationships with people so that they were like, yeah, Ashley, I trust you. I want to buy in, of course.
And they were all 100% clientele of my gym, my personal training business. So yeah.
Let's go back to when you started that gym. First, I've always loved the name because it's just like going to that gym, duh. But I know it doesn't exist anymore. It's okay. How did you learn? Because I mean, I've known you for a decade, but I never asked you, like, you became a personal trainer, but then you had to learn how to run a personal training business. Like, what was that like? And how much did that help you with the cafe?
That it's a great question. I don't know if I still have. Okay. Yeah. I am someone that kind of just does. I just do it.
Mm-hmm.
I can be creative in the moment as far as trying to capture business or clients. But realistically, what it comes down to, especially, well, actually with both. Okay, we have this much money. What can we do? What can I buy? Like, obviously with the gym, it was completely different. It was all about equipment and some marketing. And then with Blowdry, it was a whole different thing. But we really needed all of our money to open, like equipment, products, furniture, everything.
So I didn't even think about the furniture you need for a hair salon.
Yeah, and it's not cheap. Nothing in the beauty industry is cheap, I can promise you. But so we didn't have a lot. It's not like we didn't a lot for marketing. We just didn't have a ton because we needed a website. And I have a great web designer, but she wasn't cheap, but I trusted her a lot. So all of that and taken into consideration, we didn't have enough money for like mailers for that first salon we did have a nice gift from a gym client and salon client sometimes. I got a billboard put up on Henderson Road, which was
I remember the billboard.
Awesome. Yes.
Yeah.
Pretty awesome. And in the beginning, you're so busy. It's hard to keep track of like where your business is coming from. You're just so happy to have some.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I seriously,
I remember when I started my firm, the same thing. I was like, "Ooh, I don't know this person," and they called me. How exciting!
I know, right?
Yeah.
like, and I was in there a ton, but you're always, especially in the beginning. I mean, oh my gosh, we started off with iPads and that didn't work. And we had to get a desktop computer. I mean, all the things and the POS system and everything is nothing was smooth. So you're always putting out little fires. And I was working full time, 2 doors down at the gym.
Yeah.
So there's that as well. So
How did
sometimes you just miss those questions like, oh, how did you hear about it?
Since you've had a little bit more time to like breathe, right? You're not operating another business. This is your only business now.
Yes.
And you're not figuring out iPads versus desktop. And have you been able to kind of hone in on, hey, this is where we get a lot of our clientele. And so that's where we can spend time, money, and resources. Marketing is always an interesting question. So I'm just curious if you've gotten more dialed in.
Well, I'm a firm believer. And do I have the exact statistics or anything like that? No, I don't. And there are people, business owners out there that do focus more on that. And I applaud them because it's really not my forte. Do I love knowing where my clients come from? All of them? That would be amazing. But I will say that for our second location in Powell, we did do mailers, and I feel like that was pretty successful. So I'm not saying it won't ever be an option again, because obviously no business can afford to send out mailers to every single neighborhood. So there's more people out there to touch. But seriously, word of mouth is mostly, and I'm assuming Google, when people Google, because we do get a lot of business from out of towners. They come in for weddings or they come in for events. So I think that probably those clients are Google clients. I think more local clients are probably social media and really word of mouth. We do have 2 great like storefronts, so they are visible. So that helps.
Pretty high traffic roads too, right? I mean, both of them are. Yeah.
They are. Yeah. And that was important. I mean, that's always important when you're looking for a location, parking and good visibility.
Yeah. How did you decide when were you like, oh, Upper Arlington's running itself. This is great. I now need a new challenge. Let's open another location. Like, what was your thought process? Because I can imagine if I told Heidi, oh, I'm ready to open up a new location for a law firm, she'd look at me and be like, heck no.
Oh, yeah.
There'd be more choice words, I'm sure.
I think Heidi and Craig would be living together, and you and I might be too if I decided to do this. It's mostly interesting because it was late 2019. And I know that this is maybe more common now, but it wasn't common for me then to get emails from real estate places trying to promote their space, saying it would be a great location for your business, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, oh. And it comes with offering up some money to open your business here. So
yeah, discounted space or TI or however they frame it. Yes,
exactly. Anyway, so, well, I guess for us, it was build out money. So long story short, they contacted us. I said no, emailed back. I said no, emailed again. I'm like, okay, we can have a conversation. So Craig and I met with the person, and it was a space from the ground up. They offered a nice build out, and obviously it is a great location. It's downtown Powell, and that whole area is growing. Of course, I think most people do know that in the city. Yeah. And so I call our Powell location our COVID baby. We opened October 31st of 2020. Now, did we sign the lease before COVID actually hit? We sure did. So there was no really like going back from that, at least in my head. And to be honest, I'm glad, because obviously it would have been very easy to be afraid.
Yeah.
But you kind of just know what you're dealing with and you got to keep moving forward.
Well, and you knew you had a build out, right? That's not going to happen overnight. So you weren't going to be open immediately anyhow.
That is true. But if you remember during COVID, it was hard to get everything because everybody was remodeling their homes because there wasn't
We did.
anything else to do.
Yeah.
Because
Yes.
of all of you.
It's all our fault. It's fine. I'll take it, Ashley.
It was just challenging sometimes. I don't think we had as bad of an experience as some other businesses that opened during that time frame, but it had its challenges as far as COVID related issues.
Sure. But I'm assuming once you open, people are so excited to feel good because we'd all been living in our sweatpants looking less than presentable that having someone do their hair had to feel like such a luxury.
Well, yeah. So we were forced to close down for maybe 6 weeks, I want to say.
That sounds right. Yeah.
All of April, maybe longer, maybe 2 months. I can't remember.
We've blocked that part above our heads. It's fine.
But the one thing I did tell my staff at the time was, okay, we can't open until at least the restaurants are open. I mean, because no one's going to go anywhere. They're going to go see their full service stylist because they can't stand looking at their grays or whatever anymore, and they need their haircut. But yeah, we were on like the top of everyone's priority list. Now, thank God for root touch-ups at the time.
I was going to say, is that where you brought in root touch-ups or just really pushed for it?
We did that prior, but thank God we had that service available.
Sure. Yeah.
Already. But yeah, so I waited until the restaurants could open, and then we opened maybe like a week later. But no, 2020 was tough no matter what. If people were afraid, and I understand, and there wasn't a ton to do. About mid-2021, all of that kind of changed. So
yeah, we were all ready to get back out into the world and see people again.
Yeah.
Well, it seems like you've had a lot of different like ebbs and flows in both businesses and challenges. Was there any one piece of advice you got when you at any point in your entrepreneurship journey that you're like, that was the best thing that someone ever told me?
You would think that would be at the top of my mind.
It's okay.
Sure, but I probably learned, I observe. I'm an observer. So both ways, like if I see something that's working, I'm like, oh, that's awesome. Or I hear about it from another business owner. I'm like, oh, that's genius. Or things that I've done, or I think things that I've seen other businesses do that maybe aren't that appealing. I take note. I'm sure I've had great advice throughout the years. I definitely don't want to discount that. But I will say, so huge difference again between businesses where it's just you and businesses where you have employees. Both for the owner, you better plan to work your butt off. It's just how it is. I mean, there's almost no downtime. And that's not even, us, we on vacation. We do stuff for ourselves.
You like to have fun outside of work. Yeah.
But never without my phone. So, I mean, it's just, for me, it's a necessary evil because I wouldn't say like, I'm not a control freak, but I do want to be there for my business and my staff.
Yeah. If something goes wrong and they really need help, you want to be there.
Exactly. So, and it's more settling that way than not. As far as the training studio, and I still get people reaching out, mostly like former clients or friends that they know somebody who wants to start their personal training business, maybe where to start. It's a little different now. I just gave this advice. I'm like, you really need to make yourself known on social media. Have a social media presence. In my opinion. Again.
Yeah. No, I mean,
so
I follow a number of trainers on social and I'm like, what can I glean from you so that I can?
For me, when I started, I worked 7 days a week. I was there in the morning and the night and the evening. And then I also waited tables until I was able to build my clientele. So be prepared to work your butt off.
Yeah. No, it's so funny you say that. I was talking to someone and they're like, oh, I just gave up this job. I think I'm going to start my own business. I just want to have more time. And I just laughed. I was like, that's
I
a funny joke. And they looked at me like, what are you talking about? And I was like, running your own business doesn't give you more time. I mean, you have control over what that time looks like, but you will work more than you ever did before.
Sure,
Yeah.
absolutely. I can't even imagine. I mean, of course, it depends where you open your personal training studio. I mean, some rent is cheaper than others. So I always had a great clientele base. Most of my clients always followed me, which was amazing. But if I had to market the studio, like I have to market as far as emails and social media with the salon, I mean, I don't know if I would have been turning away clients or what would have been going on at that point. But it's definitely so different right now. I'm not a huge fan of having to be on social media a lot, so it's kind of not my gig, but I do it.
Right. You have to stay relevant because even if people don't find you on social, they're going to find you, then make sure you're legit by checking you
Yeah,
out on
yeah,
Instagram and Facebook and
yeah. And
TikTok. Yeah.
I don't blame anyone for that. I do the same, but yeah, it's a lot of work though, I think for one person. Yeah, so I haven't ventured out and having anyone do that for us yet or whatever, but
We'll talk about that. It is quite helpful to have
okay,
some help. This whole thing does not happen with me. I just record it and then my two-person team fixes it and makes it presentable.
nice.
Yeah.
I have team me and team Craig whenever something breaks at the salon. That's another good
I was going to say you've brought up Craig a
relevant
number.
point.
You've brought up Craig a number of times, and I know that Craig is incredibly handy and has helped with a lot of stuff. So, I mean, how much does having him as a partner really benefit you as a business owner? Because he
I
doesn't
I wouldn't
work in
have
the business.
I wouldn't have had either business probably without him, to be honest. I mean, everything takes construction. And far be it for him to pay anybody for any of it. The only things, obviously, electrical we had to have done in plumbing, but all the aesthetics and everything, including like at the gyms too, are all him. So yeah,
So it
super
sounds
good
like, yeah, having a partner was instrumental in helping the businesses.
for sure. But I do also want to say if you are going to start a business, so you are going to have employees, my number one thing was learning how to hire. That was
Oh,
very,
gosh.
very difficult in the beginning.
Yeah.
I never did it. So I didn't really know. But you start to trust your gut, you start to trust your instinct. So that will get better. Once you have like a staff and team like I do now, it's like you do everything for them. At least I do. They're the best.
Yeah, I had a business coach once who told me if it's not a hell yes, it's a hell no. And I ignored it one or two times and I was like, "Ah, dang it, it wasn't a hell yes." And I went for it because logically, and I was like, no, some of it is logic, but a lot of it is gut. Is this person a hell yes?
Yeah. And I mean, even now, I've made a couple oopsies, but in my defense, like, I'm just one of those people, I'm always going to cheer for the underdog. I'm like, okay, well, maybe we can make this work. And you think, okay, it happens, it doesn't. But for any business, I don't even think just small business, training will
But
eat
yeah,
through your bank account like nothing else.
but do you find it is necessary, right? You got to pay for the training so you have the best people so your product looks good so more people come back. It's a necessary evil, I think,
You
right?
have to, well, especially in our industry. Like, I mean, obviously, I haven't been to law school, so I don't know, but I haven't been to cosmetology school
I was
either.
gonna
But
say
I'll
you,
have more
yeah, no,
experience with that. They teach you the basics. And you would think that blowout styling hair is the basic. No, it is a complete art form. There is no just basic anything. So, yeah, we have a full training program for
every time I've gone, I was
everything.
like, how did you do that with a blow dryer? Like, I can't even get it to like look uniform with a blow dryer, and you've made it look gorgeous. So,
I still cannot. I still can't. Darn it.
all right. Well, Ashley, it has been an absolute delight to talk to you about Blowdry Cafe. If anyone is in the market for a root touch up or just wanting to look absolutely beautiful, check out one of the two locations for Blowdry Cafe. Thank you, Ashley. Bye.